Buckle up, everybody, because we're diving headfirst into a topic that has the Bitcoin community buzzing.
Buzzing might be an understatement.
Yeah, you might be right about that.
It's more like a full-blown uproar.
All right, an uproar then. It's all about these things called NFOs, non-functional ordinals.
That's right.
And people are getting pretty fired up about whether they're just harmless digital collectibles.
Or a threat to Bitcoin as we know it.
So to help us untangle this whole mess, we're going to be looking at excerpts from this article.
Can I guess the title?
Go for it.
NFO, the corruption of Bitcoin's purpose.
Bingo. You got it. So before we jump into the drama, let's make sure we're all on the same page. What exactly are these NFOs we're talking about?
Well, in a nutshell, NFOs are basically digital assets like images or tokens that are inscribed directly onto the Bitcoin blockchain.
Inscribed onto the blockchain.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's like they're permanently etched into Bitcoin's DNA.
Exactly. They're there to stay, and that's part of what's causing all the controversy.
So why is everyone making such a fuss about these digital inscriptions?
It all comes back to Bitcoin's original purpose. You see, Bitcoin was designed to be this decentralized, censorship-resistant financial system.
Right, like digital cash for the people by the people.
Precisely. And every Bitcoin transaction is verified through this process called proof of work.
Proof of work. Now, that sounds familiar, but can you give us a quick refresher?
Sure. Proof of work is like a giant computational puzzle that computers have to solve in order to add new transactions to the blockchain.
And it takes a ton of energy to solve these puzzles, right?
Oh, yeah. We're talking massive amounts of computing power. And all that energy expenditure is what makes Bitcoin so secure.
So it's like a built-in security mechanism that prevents people from messing with the system.
Exactly. It ties every Bitcoin transaction to a real-world economic cost, making it extremely difficult to manipulate.
Okay, I'm starting to see where this is going. So how do NFOs fit into this whole proof of work system?
Well, that's the million-dollar question. Critics argue that NFOs, with their emphasis on aesthetics and novelty, kind of stray from Bitcoin's core purpose as a financial system.
So instead of focusing on making Bitcoin better for transactions,
People are using it to create and trade digital art and collectibles.
which might not sound like a bad thing at first.
But the article uses this really vivid analogy to explain why it's a problem. They compare NFOs to digital graffiti.
Digital graffiti. So like someone spray painting a mural on a bank vault?
Well, not exactly. More like someone covering the bank vault in stickers.
Stickers.
Oh.
So it's not necessarily harmful.
But it's definitely cluttering things up and maybe even obscuring important information.
And how does this digital graffiti actually affect Bitcoin's functionality?
Think of the Bitcoin blockchain as a highway.
Okay, I'm picturing a digital highway with bits and bytes zooming around.
Perfect. Now imagine all these NFOs as like flashy sports cars. They might look cool.
But they're probably not the most practical vehicles for everyday use.
Exactly. And just like too many sports cars on a highway can cause traffic jams.
Too many NFOs on the blockchain can lead to network congestion and higher transaction fees.
Precisely. So that simple Bitcoin payment you were trying to send might get stuck in traffic.
And I end up paying more just to get it through.
Exactly. And that's a big deal because high fees and network congestion could make Bitcoin less appealing for everyday transactions.
Especially in places where people rely on Bitcoin as a lifeline to escape unstable financial systems.
Right. It's like adding an extra toll booth to a road that's supposed to be a free and open alternative.
So the article is basically saying that NFOs are prioritizing aesthetics and novelty over Bitcoin's original mission.
And potentially jeopardizing its functionality in the process.
And this whole thing with network congestion and high fees,
It just makes Bitcoin less efficient and less resistant to manipulation.
which are kind of like Bitcoin's superpowers.
Exactly. The things that made it revolutionary in the first place.
But hold on a second. Couldn't there be some upsides to NFOs?
Like what?
Well, maybe they could attract new users and investment to the Bitcoin ecosystem.
That's a possibility for sure.
And I've heard people argue that NFOs could actually help make Bitcoin more secure.
How so?
Because if more people are using the blockchain,
It becomes more difficult for any one entity to control it.
right, like a bigger, more diverse network is harder to manipulate.
That's the theory, at least.
So it's not all doom and gloom with NFOs.
Not necessarily. The article does acknowledge that NFOs could evolve into something more useful.
Like, what are they thinking?
Well, they talk about this idea of RFOs.
RFOs, what does that stand for?
Real functional ordinals.
Ah, okay, so RFOs are like the practical older sibling to the flashy NFOs.
That's a good way to put it. Instead of just being collectibles.
RFOs would actually have some real-world utility.
Exactly. They could be used for things like verifiable digital identities.
Or secure medical records.
Or even proof of ownership for real-world assets.
So things that actually leverage the power of the blockchain to solve problems.
Right. It's about using Bitcoin's security and immutability for more than just digital art.
It's like building the infrastructure for a whole new digital world.
Precisely. And the article argues that prioritizing RFO development is crucial for Bitcoin's long-term success.
So it's not just about saying no to NFOs.
It's about shifting the focus towards applications that align with Bitcoin's original vision.
Which is a decentralized financial system that empowers individuals and promotes financial sovereignty.
Exactly.
Well, this has been quite a deep dive.
Yeah.
We've gone from digital graffiti to traffic jams on the blockchain to the potential of RFOs.
It's amazing how much there is to unpack with just a few lines of code.
It really is. So I'm curious to know what you think. If you were shaping the future of Bitcoin, would you prioritize NFOs or RFOs or maybe something else entirely?
That's a tough one.
And do you think a decentralized network like Bitcoin should be solely focused on financial applications, or is there room for other forms of digital expression and innovation?
Those are the kinds of questions that keep me up at night.
Me too. It's a wild and exciting world out there in the land of blockchain technology, and I have a feeling this is just the beginning of the conversation.
I think you're right about that.
Thanks for listening, everybody, and be sure to join us next time as we continue to explore the frontiers of the digital age.
Until then, keep on learning, exploring, and challenging the status quo.